broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello and welcome home. Thank you for joining us on episode 43 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom. I'm here with Trevor, maybe Damon at some point. Right now it's just Trevor and I. But we've got a lot of stuff to talk about in today's episode, including I'm actually going to be buying a DVC resale contract, so we're going to talk about that. Got a little story about that. There's a new documentary series about Imagineering that Disney just announced that we're going to talk about. Also, some new information about the Wreck-It Ralph VR experience. But before we do all that, we have a listener question. We like to start with listener questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Go ahead and,
right.
Trevor, if you don't mind reading the letter we got from Paul.
For sure, yeah. So Paul here wrote to us. He said, "First up, love your podcast. I started on episode 28 and now listening to them from episode 1 intermixed with the current episodes." That's cool. I like that he's bouncing back and forth.
Just kind of. I bet it's fun to listen to old episodes of us and just how wrong we are about certain things.
Yeah,
especially,
exactly.
Just oh, those guys are idiots. They're way off.
Yeah. Yeah. So Paul goes on to say, apologies for the kind of controversial question, but I'm curious to hear about what you folks think about Disney restricting 11-month booking windows to direct sales and all resales to 7 months. With more points, more people are trying for the popular times, which people have been increasingly complaining about the inability to book 7 months. Okay, this applies to mere mortals, not Damon, who can seemingly book anything last minute.
That's true.
I like that he added that in.
I can't wait for Damon not to be able to book something. He's going to be so mad.
Yeah, it's amazing what he gets. I don't know
Absolutely,
how he does
every
it,
time.
So again, Paul goes on to say, with 2 more large sets of DVC rooms being built, when do you expect Disney to restrict 11-month bookings to direct sales? The counter-argument is that treating direct sales and resale contracts the same for the booking window supports the ever-increasing price or per-point price in direct sales and is a selling point of the purchase. What are your thoughts? So,
lots of thoughts.
Yeah, so I guess my first thing on this, I need to go back and read the contract, but I feel like they actually have... It's not a matter of them being able to put a divide between resale and sale. I think it's just something baked into the contract itself, the same as points are, because it's the same thing, right? Like points, there's always a certain amount of points, so they can't ever take points away, or they can't ever add points to a resort. It's a predefined total amount of points, but the one thing they do have flexibility on is determining how many points it takes to buy up a room, right? But
sure, but although the total points always stay the same in a given year, they can just reallocate them depending on the season. Yeah,
and I feel, like I said, I'm sorry, I wish I had actually gone and double checked this ahead of time. And you know what, if anybody who's listening to this, actually, if you want to fact check us on this, I feel that this is a contractual thing that they can't change it. So.
I'm also betting it might be... I don't want to say it's a law that they have to... I would say it's a law maybe that they have to treat... I don't know. There's a lot of... I think if it were up to Disney, that resales wouldn't be allowed at all. Like, that they would do all the resales. But I think they have to allow resales by law. And they can just take away certain little things, right? So they could take away the membership extras, which I don't think the booking windows would be considered membership extras, right? Like, that's... You're right, though. Like, it could be something stipulated in the contract too.
Yeah, and actually, I guess that may delve further into actual timeshare laws, because I think that's where that's coming from, is that there is actual legislation around what they can and can't do with timeshares, because that's effectively what DVC is it's a timeshare. So,
well, let's pretend, though, I guess for a second that there isn't any of those restrictions, right?
Yeah. So that aside, let's go back to the actual question. Would I want to see them set it so that, only direct members could book 11 month and only resales could book 7? I don't see it actually making that big of a difference, honestly.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. And the reason I say that, so to elaborate on that, is that it really comes down to individual preference. I know for myself, and to Paul's comment about, Damon being able to, basically walk up and get a room because it seems like he could just show up at the hotel and they would have something available for him.
That does seem to be be the way it happens for Day. I mean, just
Sorry, I'm exaggerating, but
you're barely. I mean, you're not exaggerating that much. You're just a little bit.
Yeah. So where Damon is, very last minute, I'm on the other end of the spectrum where, I've got a trip coming up in January, and I'm already thinking about my trip next year. So I'm more than a year out for looking at my next trip. So for me, the 11th month window is, that's ideal for me. I always operate in that 11 month window just because of how I do my vacations, where I'm coming from. It's going from Canada to the US for me.
Far away. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of planning.
So I put a lot more effort into it. There are a lot of people that, are DVC owners, that are direct owners, that are, in Damon's position. So I don't know if, if them saying, direct members are only allowed to do 11 month. I mean, I feel that, the same people that take advantage of it now would still take advantage of it. Like, if that makes sense.
I think he's just saying, just restrict, don't allow the resale people to get 11 month. Allow the direct people to do whatever they want. Just not the resale people. They can only book in 7 month, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that would actually be worse, I guess, if that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
I kind of think so, too.
Yeah, because then right now, it's, and so in my experience with the times that I've booked rooms so far, it's been, I booked 11 month. I did actually, on my trip that I have coming up, I did actually change my room around the 7 month mark. And that was because we talked about, what we were going to do, and we decided that we wanted to change from a standard view to a lake view at the Polynesian. And what I found was that, at 7 months, the 4 of the days were available. So I booked those 4 days, and I left my original intact, which meant I ended up with a split stay for a short period of time. And then I waitlisted the rest of the days, and they all kind of filled in over the next couple of weeks. Like it eventually filled up that I got the whole thing. But just watching how that all played out, what that tells me is that, people, and I think maybe this is a change in mentality, I guess, of people that do these bookings, is that there's an expectation that you go in and you book and you will get exactly what you want at that point. But the reality is that there's not enough rooms. Regardless of how many people are booking through or who have bought through Disney Direct or are buying resale, the amount of rooms is still finite. And because of that, all these rooms do get booked up, in the 11th month window. The people that are very far out are already booking up all these rooms. And then the 7th month is when people kind of shift around, right? So, booking at 7 month, it looks like everyth's booked up, but when you actually go and do your booking, you find that, all of a sudden, these certain rooms become available for certain days. And it's a little more frustrating, I guess, because you do have to do that wait list thing and kind of, book half your trip and then, fill in the rest of the days as you go. But I think that speaks to the fact that, it's not that everything is absolutely booked up and that, there's all these people that are just booking rooms arbitrarily and, not freeing them up. It's, people are changing their plans. When you book that far out, things change, people change their ideas, they cancel, they, move rooms, move resorts, all those kinds of things. So, I don't feel that, restricting it to direct versus non-direct is going to actually change anything. Well,
and to your point, so I just booked my trip for next year, right? So I booked my week at the first week of October at Bay Lake, which is obviously my home resort. I have no intention of staying at Bay Lake. Not going to stay there. This is my backup reservation in case I can't get something else. I just wanted to have a reservation there, right? And so I'm going to cancel that at 7 months and get what I really want and, go after that. That was, the place I was able to book at 11 months because that's where I own. So, kind of to your point, I think a lot of people do that, especially if you're staying at a resort that's not your home resort. A lot of people will just book whatever they can, at 11 months and then book what they really want at 7 months. And, I have to be honest, and this is probably going to be a controversial thing to say. I tend to feel like all the people that say, oh, it's so hard to get a reservation, I feel like a lot of it is overblown. And the reason I want to say that is because I think what happens is when you dig into those types of situations, it's people that are trying to book very specific rooms that there are not a lot of. And so what I mean by that is I just saw somebody in one of the groups the other day complaining. They were saying, oh, 11 months out and I couldn't get a standard view at Boardwalk. Well, yeah, there's like 13 standard view rooms at Boardwalk. It's that's the problem there, and it's there's stuff like that that's going to come up. And I think, like you said, you need to have some flexibility, of course, but you can't necessarily expect to book something the next week before you go. But I mean, I've looked at that 60-day out thing. There's always rooms available, and what happens is it's, unfortunately a lot of people want to go during the same time of year, so it just, it's really hard for Disney to even out those visitors throughout the year. It's the same thing they're trying to do with park tickets, but they can't really seem to, be able to make the DVC members spread out throughout the year. Because if they did, there would be more availability for everybody, right? So
yeah, and you're right. Actually, that's I guess that's the other side of it. Is I'm thinking about in just the week that I'm booking it is there is a certain amount of rooms, but yeah, the reality is people want to go. They want to go to a Halloween party. They want to go to Christmas. There's a reason.
Food and wine.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at the point charts, there's a reason why certain weeks are classified with at higher points than other weeks. That's because they know that those weeks are busy because of holidays and stuff like that. So, and I guess that does attribute to part of the the stuff you see about I can't book this particular room 7 months out. Well, yeah, because 7 months from now is for example Christmas or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Like yeah, that does make sense because that is a very busy time of year, and anybody who wants to go there is booking at 11 months out. And I guess further to that is kind of the same way you're approaching it and the same way that I approach it is start off by book your home resort at 11 months. If you really want to be in Disney at a particular time, you start by booking at 11 months because that at least regardless of anything else you have a room. And I think that's the thing that people that's the thing that people don't they look at I want the whole package. I want everything to be I get my room, I get my tickets, I get like they want it all in one shot, right?
Sure.
And I've learned this you can't do it all in one shot. And start with the first thing is have a room. At least say I got a room. If it's at Saratoga Springs, it's at Saratoga Springs, but I got a room.
Exactly. And you know what, if I can't get another room I want at 7 months, which honestly is unlikely. I mean, even if I have to waitlist something, within 7 months, I'm going to get what I want. I mean, the odds are very good that I'm going to get what I want.
And even, I'll admit that, so my experience was, like I said, I'll use myself as an example, is that I booked a standard view poly at 11 months because I didn't think at the time, I would want to do a lake view. And then we went on our trip and we got back and it was like, okay, I actually do kind of want a lake view. So we, so then, yeah.
That view is important. That's really important.
Well,
it is. Yeah.
That's actually how it happened was that, so I booked it for next January. I actually booked it, last February, but then I went and I did my trip in May and we were there, and that was my first time actually staying at the Poly. So my first time at my home resort, and we saw everything that was like, oh, hey, this is a good reason to book, the Lakeview room. And so we went back home. I molded around for, it was about, I think it was, July was when my 7 month window came up. So yeah, then all of a sudden July, I was like, okay, maybe we should look at, booking the Lakeview room. So I went to go and switch, and, lo and behold, I went and I looked, and it's like, oh, they don't have the room that I want for the full stay. And initially I had that freak out moment. I admit I did have that, I was like, oh my God, I can't, Like I can't do this.
I can't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I did, I was like, well, I'll book, the 4 days. And then I got into a little bit of a panic because I was like, well, now we've got a split stay, which, it wasn't that bad because it's, it's still at the same resort, but, still
Sure.
the idea of, picking up and moving to another room right in the middle wasn't what we wanted to do. It's just,
Of course. Yeah.
yeah, it just didn't make a lot of sense. And so I was, panicked and, I was like, watching the bookings every day, seeing if maybe something came up before, I saw, or before my wait list grabbed it. But lo and behold, all of a sudden, I wake up and it's like, oh, you got this day. Oh, you got the next day. And then, eventually I got the whole booking that I wanted, but it's that patience factor, I think, that makes it
Sure,
hard
yeah.
for people. So, yeah. So like I said, in all of this, it's very, like I said, it's a change in how you do your bookings. It's a change in how you do your vacations. And I think that's the larger issue that people have with the whole 7th month, 11th month, things being booked up and all that kind of stuff. And it's,
I agree.
and again, this is, I guess we should, again, remind everybody, this is just our opinions on this. We're not, experts on this by any means, but I think, I learned this year, the one thing that I see about all those people that, get upset about not getting what they want is that there is definitely a lack of patience there.
Sure.
So,
Paul, don't get angry at us.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, we're sharing our thoughts, right? So,
well, yeah. And but I also think too, I think people also don't realize that more hotels and more points in the system actually means more availability for all of us. Because, Disney, first of all, they're not always selling all of these points. So there's points available at places, and points represent, weeks of rooms and things like that. So, given they do them in pieces where they release rooms, as they sell them, but the more resorts and the more rooms means more availability for all of us. It's not a bad thing to add members and add points to the system and add hotel rooms to the system. I think it's a good thing.
yeah.
And there's some people that are smarter than me about DVC that will tell you the same thing. It's definitely not a bad thing to have those other resorts out there. It's going to help everybody to have the Riviera and to have the Wilderness one that they're going to build. All of those are good things for all of us to have more availability and more choices, and hopefully some more room styles and things like that. And room, there's been a rumor that the Riviera is going to have more studios than most of the resorts do. It's going to have a higher volume of studios. I think that's DVC listening to feedback, if that's true. Because a lot of people that's where most people complain. You almost never hear people complain. It's like, oh, I can't get a 2-bedroom. It's always they can't get a studio. Like that's always the issue, right? Is that you can't get a studio, and because obviously that's the most popular room choice, but and because it's obviously the cheapest too. So I think that'll change things. Now we should probably answer his actual question: should Disney do this, or will they do it? I personally don't think that they should. As someone who's about to buy a resale contract, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but I would hate to have that as a restriction there, and I think you would, if Disney did do that, I don't know how much it would really affect the resale market that's out there. I would love to talk to Nick about this from our sponsor, DVC Resale Market, but I don't think it would affect it that much, because getting rid of all the membership, the membership extras, I don't think have really affected resale all that much, from what I can tell. They still have a really good value proposition. But I don't think Disney will do this. I don't think that they have that much of an incentive to do it. I think they're happy that their hotels are filled. I don't think that they get as many complaints about people not being able to book as people think. I think for the most part, most people are happy.
Yeah, and I guess, further to that is this is... I'm of the same opinion, but my thinking is, if they did start restricting it to the point where, resale was not attractive at all, then all of a sudden you've got people potentially abandoning contracts, trying to sell them.
Yep.
And then, either, they, I don't even know if you could walk away from a contract like this, but all of a sudden, people are not using those contracts. That's bad for Disney as well. Not having people use these things, all of a sudden it becomes harder to convince people to buy them. So it's really not in their best interest to do something like this, right?
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I understand. Like, we're not ragging on people here that complain about not being able to get rooms. I get it. Like, it's a frustrating thing when you can't get the room you're looking for. I get that, especially for those of us that are not, because there are a lot of people that can't plan really far in advance. You know, there are some people that, can't figure out when they can take off of work until like a month beforehand. So I get that. But I think that's also part of knowing what you're buying before you buy it, right? Is that DVC is not something you can really book last minute and get whatever you want. And I think that's something you should probably know going in before you buy, you know?
Yeah. And actually, so to highlight that, when I was going through the process with my DVC rep, we talked about this. Like, he asked us, how do you do your vacations? What are your thoughts on this and all that? And he said, specifically with our size of family, he said, and so at the time, Polynesian was still being sold through direct. They hadn't finished selling off all the contracts yet. We actually originally wanted to buy at the Grand Californian. And he turned us off of that because we were thinking, we'd want to go to Disneyland and then, maybe go to Disney World. And he said, you may actually be better off looking at Disney World because getting into Disneyland is extremely difficult because there's so little rooms.
So few rooms, yeah.
Yeah, and then he also further said to us, kind of the same thing you said is, because my family in particular, it's small. There's three of us, so we would be booking a studio a lot of the times. And he said, some of the resorts, they don't have a lot of studios. And he said, the thing about the Poly is that it's pretty much all studios except for the bungalows. So, so that makes a lot more sense for us, or for my family situation than, versus someone like Damon, who, he's looking at one bedrooms and whatnot because he does have a larger family. So that's what makes sense. Yeah.
We always joke about him getting whatever he wants. That's because he's always booking something that's not a studio. Honestly. Yes. That's why he can always get a room, is because he's always booking something that's not a studio. I honestly think that the vast majority of the complaints come from people that are trying to book studios. Well, and I get it. Studios are in short supply. I get it.
Yeah. And this is kind of, so my thinking on this is, I know this is going to sound, or it's not going to make sense to some people, and that's totally fair because it's just, my thinking on these things is, I'm always trying to go where the crowd is not, I guess. So
you mean during the time of year or just in general? Like,
well, so this is an all around thing, actually. The time of year that I go, I deliberately try to make sure that I go when, crowds are low. I try to make sure that I'm not going around, specific holidays. I do. Like, it doesn't always happen that way, but, I do my best to try and avoid, going during the typical busy times of year. As far as booking or, going places to go, I'm not looking at... Sorry?
You avoided Pandora the first two trips you went.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, the same thing is, when we're actually in the parks, I'm not the first person in line to get on Flight of Passage. I'm not going to be in Star Wars Land right after it opens either, because same reason, I don't want to be part of that craziness. So I'm always going, somewhere else. And I think that's the thing for a lot of people is, everyone, you think about, well, I really want to go to Boardwalk, right? But, you want to go to Boardwalk, but everybody else wants to go to Boardwalk too. And so all those rooms are getting booked up.
Exactly.
So you either, have to change your plan and, tell yourself, maybe I go to Beach Club instead, because Beach Club is, it's in that same area. It's not Boardwalk, but it's close enough. It gets you to Epcot. It gets you, that same kind of
same
feel.
General area. It's right across the way there.
But you always hear about people, focusing on Boardwalk. So that's maybe kind of the thought too, is, you have to kind of change your thinking about, like, if something is popular and you're excited about it, chances are there's a whole bunch of other people that are excited about it as well. So you either have to be prepared to fight for it, or you have to learn how to, go around it.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, I hope that helps, Paul. I appreciate we appreciate the email for sure, and we appreciate that you listen. I think it's a good question. I think it's an interesting question to be talked about, but I don't see it benefiting Disney/DVC. Well, let's be honest. Like, DVC is technically a separate entity from Disney, but obviously they're very related. So, but I just don't see DVC really doing this. But I mean, it's an interesting idea, and it's frankly the first time I've ever heard anybody bring that up. Even in all the DVC groups I'm in, I've never heard somebody actually say that. So, that was an interesting thought.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it brought out a lot of good discussion here about how I think it speaks to the larger question of not just the booking windows, but how are you actually using your DVC membership, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I don't know about you, but I stalk my wait lists, and what I mean by that is I don't wait for the wait list to pick it up. I will, if I'm waiting for a room, I will check that availability tool 10 times in a day. I don't care. I'll keep checking it. Keep checking, because I've gotten it before where it's popped up and and it didn't process through the wait list yet, and I just went and grabbed it. So that's how I am. But
I tried to do that, but the rest of my life didn't allow me to do that because I was busy. So, but the thing
what are you implying, Trevor? That I'm not busy? I don't.
Well, extenuating circumstances.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that was a good discussion. It's interesting.
Yeah. I hope, Paul, that like I said, if he's got any more comments on this, and again, not just for Paul, for anybody else that's listening to this, let's hear your guys' thoughts on some of this stuff.
We did get a follow up from Paul too. I responded to his initial email, and he did follow up, and I did want to. I didn't say what we were going to talk about, but he did make me laugh because he said. Several family and friends are considering either adding or becoming members, and this was asked. Everyone at the table went, that'd be an interesting twist, and how that would change how some would add on. As I quoted you guys throughout last week's WDW visit, and I got asked to quote ask the DVC podcast guys. So I just had to read that because I like that we're the DVC podcast guys. That just makes me laugh. Aww. So I appreciate that, Paul. That's you can keep calling us that. We're cool with that title.
Yeah.
So next thing on here, I kind of teased this in the opening thing here. So I said to my wife the other day that I felt like we were ready to buy another contract, right? So. And this is funny because this topic came up from Paul because we decided a while ago that we were going to buy a resale contract, and of course we work really well with DVC resale market, and I've been joking but serious that I've been stalking the app, and I've been stalking that app for a while trying to find the right contract. And it's funny because for a while my wife and I were talking about Saratoga Springs, because if you look at the best value and on the DVC resale website, they have they do every quarter they do the best value based on how many years are left. So they do it by dollars per year and come up with a number that's the most economical, right? And so Saratoga is always at the top of that list. And the other day I had kind of decided, I was like, you know what, I kind of want to buy at Animal Kingdom because it's got I think it has 36 years left on it, or 39 years. It might be 39 years. And, it's still a lot of time. And someone's going to kill me if I got that wrong, but it's got 30 some years left on it. And I was like, I'll be in my late, it's 36 years. Cause I think I'm going to be 80 or older when that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so that's plenty of time. Right. So, and I was like, you know what? We've stayed at Animal Kingdom 2 or 3 times. We love it every time we stay there. And we've got a young kid. And hopefully she doesn't hate animals, or else we're screwed. But that's the only gamble we're taking here, is that she likes animals. So let's hope that she does. But we're thinking, so I had in my mind made the decision. I was like, you know what? Forget Saratoga. Let's just look at Animal Kingdom. And I said to my wife a week later, I was like, yeah. So I'm gonna look for some contracts. And she goes, you know what? I'm thinking we should buy at Animal Kingdom. And I was like, this is why I married you. This is we're on the same wavelength on this. So long story short, stalking the app, and a 110-point contract at Animal Kingdom popped up. And so I jumped on it, And you say 41 years? Is that what you're telling me, Trevor?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your.
Is it really?
Your story. Yeah.
I thought it was 36, but okay. I'm losing my mind apparently.
Oh wait, sorry, you're right. It's 39. I didn't.
It was 39.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
My bad. I was looking at an old post.
we just were talking about how we're the DVC podcast guys. We're supposed to be experts.
Yeah. I don't keep these numbers in the back of my head though.
Neither do I. Even though I'm buying this contract. But anyway, what's a couple years here and there?
Yeah.
But anyway, so basically it was 115 points per point. $115 per point. I'm sorry. 110 points. I text my wife and it was the use year. So my use year is March. But the use year on this one was April, and I was really wanting to do the same use year. But this one was April, and I'm like, you know what? It's close enough. It's 110 points. So I throw in an offer of 110 on there. About 5 minutes later, I get a call from Nick Cotton because you can choose on DVC Resale Market who you want to work with. And no offense to Derek and do you remember what her name was?
I believe it's Marissa.
Marissa. I wanted to say Melissa, and I was like, that's wrong. I'm sorry. But anyway, so I picked Nick, and Nick calls me 5 minutes later, and he's like, yeah, so they accepted your offer. And I'm like, what? I was thinking this was going to take like weeks, and or at least a week, and not going to happen right away like that, but it did. So just for those of you out there that haven't done this before, it's kind of an eye-opening process because I have my original points, but I've never bought more points. This is kind of a new experience, and truthfully, I don't remember my buying experience when I bought the direct points because it was a while ago now. So the first thing we had to, obviously there's the paperwork you got to fill out and all that stuff, but one of the things Nick told me, and I feel like I should have known this. This made me feel really dumb that I do a DVC podcast and I didn't know this, but because the use years are different, I'm going to have a separate membership number for it. Did you know that? Yeah. So Nick tells me that, and I'm like, oh. It's like, I didn't know that was how that happened. Right? I mean, why would I? I hadn't bought add-on points, and I'm sure there's a lot of listeners right now that are going, yeah, dummy, you should know that. But what that means, and I was like, oh, okay, well, what does that mean for me? And he was basically like, well, when you want to book anything, if you want to use points from the other contract, you have to transfer the points from that membership to the other membership.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So they just treat it as if it's two separate people dealing with each other. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, okay, well, that's minorly a pain, I guess. It wasn't enough because to Nick's credit, and I appreciate that he did this. He explained all that to me before I went through and purchased the contract, because if I would have just done it, I would have had no idea, and I would have been like, wait a second, this is I didn't know that I had to deal with this. He explained the whole thing. Is real, and this is, by the way, this is not just me propping up our sponsor. I'm just wanting to explain to you, my experience I had, because it's great. And so he explained how all that works, and kind of how I would have to manage my contract. And I was like, so what do you recommend? Do a lot of people have different use years? He's like, I've got a bunch of contracts that have different use years. Not a big deal. He's like, if you know what you're doing, it's not a big deal. So I thought that was a good information because I didn't know that. Some of our listeners out there probably are looking to add on and they don't know either. So I don't know. Did you know that, Trevor?
I didn't know that, but like you said, now that you're talking about it, it absolutely does make sense. Yeah,
it does.
And so, like, even for myself, is we are eyeing up more points, and we're going to go the same path. We're going to buy resale, but so just for my own sanity, I'm really trying to make sure that I stay within the same use year.
Yeah,
and that's purely just out of convenience for me, but. Again, I guess if I was looking, like you said, like if you got multiple contracts, trying to line everything up with the same user, it might actually be more of a hassle than, you can still see everything on the website. You can, go and do all the point transferring and everything. So
that's the thing. And I said to him, I can still have the same login and have everything under the same login, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, that'll all still work just fine. It's like he's just like, it'll just be two separate membership IDs. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. But so now, you do a bunch of paperwork, the standard, stuff, and then now I'm in that right of first refusal process, and I have to tell you, I've been freaking out a little bit because I again, Nick posts on DVC Resale Market the most bought back resorts. Like they post how many contracts get bought back by Disney, and Animal Kingdom's up there. It's like 2 or 3 on his list, and I'm like, oh man, they better not buy this contract back. I'm going to be so mad. But I mean, if they do, they do, and then you start the process over again. But so far, it's been a great experience. Now it's just the waiting game for me. So
yeah.
But I wanted to share that because I learned something new, and I think it's kind of cool. And I rarely do I learn something new on the show unless we have the people from DVC on, and they always teach us something new. I swear on the show about the contracts that we own. So
yeah, and I think so. As far as right of first refusal goes, I've heard a little bit of expanded information on that. The reasons that people buy right of first, Disney buys back the contracts is, they've got somebody that's wanting to buy direct, so they'll just, buy back a contract and then sell it to somebody else. Or if the price is too low, right? So I guess my only question to you is, for the cost of this contract, do you feel you're getting a steal of a deal on it, or do you feel that it's reasonable?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I looked at the average price, the average selling price for Animal Kingdom, because he also posts that too, and it was about, I think it was like $113 over the past couple months. So I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a good deal, right? But I am a little concerned that they're going to buy this back, just because I feel like $110 a point is pretty good. Considering that I think DVC would sell this direct at like $176 a point, so it's a pretty good deal, I think. So I'm a little concerned about that.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, see. I do really hope it goes through for you, but maybe you need to offer up a Mickey premium bar to the DVC gods or something as tribute.
Yeah, I need to sacrifice a Mickey bar.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that works. I don't know. Maybe that will appease the buyback
the DVC gods. Yeah. I need to go throw my Figment Funko Pop into a volcano, and then the DVC gods will give me my contract.
Well, no, you build a little shrine is what you do.
Okay, I can do that.
You build a little shrine, and every day you say, please let my contract go through.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. Do that. So and it's a long waiting process too. So they tell you up front it takes between like 50 and 80 days to do the whole process, because Disney takes their sweet old time. They take like at least like a month or like 30 days to do the right of first refusal, and then after that's done, if you get through it, then it's another couple weeks till closing. So the whole process takes anywhere from like 50 to 80 days.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that, because when I bought direct, I think the whole thing for us took about 30 days. Start to finish. So.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. I mean, it is. I don't think it's a lot faster. It's a lot faster because all you're doing is the closing part. You're not doing the waiting on the right of first refusal. But is waiting a month worth 110 per point as opposed to 176 per point? Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
patience,
and like I said, I really want to hear how this turns out, because, like I said, next year we're going to be looking at buying more points ourselves. So this will all be good information. And again, I hope that, as we go through it, I hope that our experience, we see some different things, because I would love to, share that back to the podcast here, so that we can, give people a better idea of, what actually happens when you go through these contracts, right?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing, is, to share this kind of thing with people, because, everybody's going to have a different experience, but I think it's important to really know, just kind of what the process looks like and how it all works.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, stay tuned, everyone. We'll let's see how Tom does with offering to the DVC gods.
Yes, let's hope so. I hope this contract goes through. I also think it's weird that it's 110 points. I've seen some weird like 66 points, and like where are people getting these weird point amounts?
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like,
I actually they were all rounded off, like 150, and
I saw one for 44 points. I was like,
where does that come from?
Yeah, how do you get 44 points? But so actually, I guess maybe somebody somebody explain to us how that works. Like,
Yeah.
why would you look at buying a very specific number of points?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a perfect lead-in to our friends at DVC Resale Market, our sponsors and our friends over there. So,
yeah. So as you guys know, DVC Resale Market, they've been friends of ours for a while. They have been helping to sponsor our podcast. DVC Resale Market is the leader in the DVC resale industry with 11 former Disney Vacation Club guides and 2 former Disney Vacation Club quality assurance managers. If you're thinking of buying DVC, browse the largest selection of DVC resale listings anywhere with DVC experts on hand 7 days a week to answer your questions. If you're thinking of selling, turn to the friendly professionals at DVC Resale Market with over 98% of listings selling within 30 days and over 2,400 contracts that were sold in 2017 alone. If you want to go to their website, that's dvcresalemarket.com, or you can call them at 1-844-DVC-PROS, which is 382-7767. Let them know that Welcome Home sent you. They love to hear that, you guys are reaching out to them from us, and we love to hear that too. I mean, we think it's a great partnership, and we love to hear that, people are getting in contact with them. Again, that's dvcresalemarket.com or 1-844-DVC-PROS.
great.
Yeah.
Please check them out. Like I said, they're great, and they've been good to me so far with this contract. So, and they're our friends and sponsors. So we if you support this show, support the people that support us. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and they're super nice. They deserve it.
Yeah, they really are super nice.
Yeah.
So I am super pumped about what we're about to talk about. I
Yes.
have not been, and we never talk about like the TV stuff unless Damon's here because we're a parks podcast for the most part. But I think this kind of has to do with parks, right? Mm-hmm. So Disney last week, or I guess this week, depending on when you listen to this, announced the name of their new streaming service, which has been talked about for a while. It's going to be called Disney Plus. But along with that, they talked about a lot of the original programming that they're going to do. And one of the things that they put out there is that they are going to do a docu-series that is a behind-the-scenes look of Imagineering. And man, am I excited for that! I will binge watch that whole thing if that's the way they're going to do it. The second it comes out. So,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is I think I'm kind of like you. Whenever certain movies come out that have like they'll show behind the scenes footage and stuff like that, and sometimes some Disney movies they'll even they'll do some Disney park stuff, like they'll show like Haunted Mansion or Pandora and stuff like that. I love seeing those little tidbits, right? And a whole TV show of this, like you're right, it's very easy to just sit down and watch this for a couple of days straight.
Well, and totally, and that's I'm actually surprised that they're doing this, but I'm glad they're doing it. I think it'll be really cool because I think sometimes, you see people all the time that do like the armchair Imagineering where they're like, well, if I were in charge, I would have... Yeah, well, we do it. Sure, yeah. That's true. I'm criticizing everybody, but including us. But, we do that all the time. And I think a lot of times when when people complain about certain things, it's like, well, maybe that just wasn't realistic. Maybe that wasn't in the budget, or maybe it wasn't possible, or maybe it didn't make sense for this reason, that reason. I think this will help people understand a little bit more how this process works. I think it'll make people appreciate the little things a little bit more. I think with some things in the parks, I think people just like, okay, this is we go on Seven Dwarfs and it's just a roller coaster. It's like, well, yeah, but like it's a mountain that they built in the middle of the park. And it's really pretty, and they had to build a roller coaster inside a mountain. And I mean, these things are. I think we take it for granted because it's so, it's just so prevalent in the parks, and you just kind of get used to it. But there are certain things that I go on that are not even like. Okay, so every time we go to Magic Kingdom, we go to Belle's Enchanted Tales, and you know why? It's a kid's show, right? It's just my wife and I. But we go because it has some of the coolest stuff in it. I don't know if have you ever done that one?
We haven't actually, and part of that is because I have a 10-year-old boy and trying to convince him.
Not interested, right?
Yeah. It's just not happening. Yeah.
If he's into like technology stuff though, like it has, I swear to you, maybe 3 of the coolest things I've ever seen Disney do. Like just in that one little attraction, like just with there's a in the I don't want to spoil anything.
The projection mapping and all
but
of those
just
things. Yeah.
In the beginning, like you're just standing in a room and there's a mirror on the wall, and then the mirror turns into a door. And if you're watching it, you can see how it happens, but it's still crazy cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's stuff like that. I think people don't appreciate it as much as they should, and I think a show like this is going to be awesome, and I'm really excited about it. I was going to subscribe to this already, but if I wasn't going to, this would have made me subscribe to it.
Well, so to add on to the subscription part, so one thing that I'm hoping for, and any other Canadians that are listening to this, maybe we need to try and figure out how to make sure that this service comes to Canada, because I know like in Canada, Netflix they have a lot of licensing challenges. So they have to get things licensed in Canada, the same as they do in the US, but they get like a fraction of the things licensed in Canada because there's other competing companies that are stopping them from broadcasting these things. I really hope that Disney is able to, bring this service here and for us to be able to, watch these shows. So that's the first thing, is that, I want to be part of it. I want to subscribe to the service as well. And, if Disney, if you're listening, hey, don't forget about Canada, please.
Well, we do have a fair amount of Canadian listeners, so you guys need to band together and tell Disney that this needs to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first thing. Secondly, as you were talking about all that, I realized, I don't know, did you watch there was a special on before Halloween about, it was showing about how they did all the behind the scenes on,
decorating Disney or whatever it is. Yeah.
And I hope that this show is kind of on the same level as that, because I learned a ton of stuff about that, and it was they touched on Disneyland and Disney World. Specifically, there was a story from one of the cast members in Disneyland that he's been part of their food prep services for like 30 years.
Saw that, yeah.
And he
they made him that cake, and everything,
and how he does like a hidden Mickey on the gingerbread house in the Haunted Mansion. Which, by the way, if you have not seen the gingerbread houses they do in the Haunted Mansion, like I've been
at Disneyland.
there.
Let's qualify that, Disneyland.
Yeah, at the Disneyland Haunted Mansion for the Nightmare Before Christmas, those gingerbread houses are amazing, and being able to see what they do to make that kind of stuff, that's what I want to see out of this documentary series, is all the effort that goes in, all the little the soul, I guess you could call it, that the
personal touch that all the Imagineers put on these things.
Exactly. And I really hope that that's what this show turns out to be, because that would just that would totally sell it for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I agree with you. I hope it even goes deeper than that, like where they go really because I want to see the design of these things, like who came up with these things, but you got some of that in there, but I want to see even more, I guess. But that thing, by the way, I was blown away. I was watching this with my wife, and I'm like, wait, they use real gingerbread in there? Like, why don't they just build a fake gingerbread house and no one can get close to it? But no, they make a real gingerbread house and put it in there. I was blown away by that.
And it's different. Like, it's so different every year, and it's so cool.
It also seemed incredibly impossible to put that thing in there. I was like terrified watching this because they they bake it off site, and then they have to get it into the Haunted Mansion, and they have to get it through all these like little tiny corridors. And I'm like, oh man, I just don't want them to drop it. Like, I know they know what they're doing; they've done it a million times, but it was giving me an anxiety attack watching the thing. I was like, oh, this cake falls, I'm going to feel so bad for this dude.
Yeah.
But no, I'm super psyched about this. I love the behind the scenes tours. Like my wife and I have done so many behind the scenes tours because this is the exact kind of stuff that we like. We like to know what's going on behind the scenes, and even if I don't think it ruins the magic so much for me. I think it kind of adds to the magic in my mind.
Yeah, and I agree. Is that when it's kind of like it's like a magic trick, I guess, to me. Is when you see someone perform magic, I very much I will be totally involved in the magic that is going on in front of me. But when I understand what's going on as well, like I have learned a bit of magic over the years. Like I understand how people palm cards and stuff like that. But you start to like you appreciate the magic, but then you also appreciate the technical or the skill of the person doing that magic, right? And I think that's what this series could really be, is, this will showcase the skill that these people have to, bring these things to life and to put these things in. And then also, when you go back and, like you say, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is a great example of, you get on that ride. If you're not looking around, like there's tons of little detail. Yeah, there's little bits and pieces everywhere that you totally miss because, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm getting on this roller coaster, right? But exactly. But they put so much work into it that, maybe, 99 people won't see, but that one person will see, and they will, they'll point out and be like, oh, look at that. I caught that reference, or I caught, the hidden Mickey or whatever, right? And I mean, that's what's fun. That's what's great about Imagineering, right? So
another great example of that is the Little Mermaid ride.
Oh, are you talking about the
one in
July
New
13th? The July 13th. Is it July 13th? That there's a hidden Mickey that is only visible on like 1 or 2 days of the year.
Oh yeah, but I just mean that queue line for that is so detailed.
Oh,
and so filled. I like it. I just meant that. But yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, so in the queue for Little Mermaid, they specifically set up, there's a certain rock formation that when the sun is at a particular position, it will actually shine a hidden Mickey on one of the walls. But because of how the sun moves in the sky, it's only visible for a certain time of the year. And I'm pretty sure it's in the summer. But
yeah, I don't know the exact date, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But again, that's crazy, right? That, they would, somebody would go to that effort for something that you would only see, 1 or 2 days of the year. But, somebody who happens to be standing in that line at that time, sees, a hidden Mickey on the wall made from sunlight. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just excited about it. I can't wait for this service to launch. I'm psyched. There's going to be so much cool stuff on it, and the original programming that they've announced sounds amazing too. So
yeah, more Monsters Inc. stuff like that. Like I hope that this means I think you, me, and Damon have all said there's some shows out there that we feel don't get enough love.
Sure.
And I'm hoping that this is a good reason for them to start exploring some of the lesser known stuff again, right? Because they can, offer it up on their service.
If I can expose my kid to the original DuckTales and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers and, Tailspin, all that stuff, if that's all on there, I'm going to be super psyched.
I went the other way and bought the DVD sets.
You could do that too.
Yeah,
you could do that too.
But no, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about this Wreck-It Ralph thing?
Yes, I do, because
I got to know if you're going to do it.
Bunny gets the pancake.
Didn't we guess that that's what it was going to be? Although it does seem slightly different. So
So they've released a little bit more detail on the Wreck-It Ralph VR experience at the Void. So I guess it opens November 21st, the same day as the movie.
Makes sense.
The general description is no trip with our favorite misfit friends would be complete without a bit of mischief. So we are excited to reveal that fans will get to have a chance at the ultimate food fight in the Pancake Milkshake Diner, battling hordes of evil kitties and bunnies who share one goal: destroy you and your team with flying cupcakes. So this is that scene that, if you've watched the trailers, where Ralph keeps feeding the bunny the pancakes, and the bunny eventually explodes, right?
Until the bunny, we assume explodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's hilarious. I think,
I do too.
It sounds like, it'll be like, things coming at you from all directions and, having to get out of the way and all that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited for it. So
are you going to do it when you go?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I told my son, and I guess, for anyone that hasn't figured it out yet, I'm a big gamer. If you saw my Extra Life stream last week. So as a big gamer, Wreck-It Ralph is right up my alley. So I definitely want to do this. I love Wreck-It Ralph because of how they've kind of portrayed the video game world. So yeah, I will be doing this. I told my son that, but he still said to me afterwards, he's like, well, we got to do the Star Wars one again too. So we're actually going to do
both of them?
Yeah.
That's okay. It's Disney, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Budgets don't matter at Disney. I mean,
right.
You got to do everything. No, I think this is cool. I definitely want to. I'm hoping it's still around when I go in October. because I think it would be really fun to do. I do wonder, are you going to be playing as a specific character, or because obviously you're with Vanellope and Wreck-It Ralph,
right?
But are you yourself a specific character? Like, if you look at are they referring to you in a certain way or something like that? You know what I mean?
I get the feeling, just from what I've seen of the trailers, is that there's the video game characters, but then there's the internet characters, which is, that like when they go into the internet, there's like these characters that they're not of a specific series or anything. They're just identified as, being in the internet. I get the feeling that that's how you're going to look, is that, it'll kind of like how in the Star Wars one, they make you look like a stormtrooper, is that you'll look like, you'll look like a generic internet character, right?
Yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. I was just wondering what way they were going to go with that. Not that I thought they were going to make us like, although I think it'd be kind of fun to be like Ralph or Vanellope. I think that'd be kind of fun, but
yeah, I mean, the thing is it's up to 4 players, so I don't know how.
You couldn't do it that way because I was like, 2 people want to be Ralph, and that would make things weird. Yeah,
and then I guess Felix isn't in this one, so. But I guess if you're going to do proper 4-player, because even for anyone that's watched the original Wreck-It Ralph, they kind of alluded to 4-player games, or the old 4-player arcade games at the end in the credits, where they had Ralph, Vanellope, Fix-It Felix, and then what is the Sergeant?
Oh yeah, I don't remember her name, but
Calhoun. I think it's Calhoun.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
let's go with that.
Yeah, so it was like the 4 of them. So yeah,
you
maybe
could do that.
You could do those 4 characters. So
I'm going to assume that Fix-It Felix is going to have a cameo, at least in this VR experience. Like I feel like he's going to be there somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I get the feeling there'll be a lot of I can't see them not pulling a bunch of stuff from both of the characters, movies, right?
Yeah. There's got to be a bunch of characters in there.
Yeah, or maybe this is a reason to bring back King Candy or something, right? Like,
well, I mean, and truthfully, based on the trailers that we've seen from this, there's a lot of Disney type characters in this too. Yeah, because they do that whole segment where they go to like the Disney part of the internet. Yeah, so I mean, what's to say that some of those characters couldn't show up too?
Yeah.
So
I
who knows?
don't know how I feel about Cinderella threatening me with a broken glass slipper, though.
I mean, I think that'd be kind of cool to happen.
Actually,
I think that'd be,
You're right. I would love that.
I love that in the trailer. She just smashes the shoe and she that's hilarious. I can't believe they're okay with that.
Yeah.
I feel like someone just animated that and was like, "Hey, we want to do this." Like after they animated it,
or maybe it was they knew they would never fly, and then somebody was like, "Yeah, this is good." Really?
Yeah, really? It's okay. It's okay. Yep. Some dude was trying to actually get fired and put that in there, and then they were like, "Oh no, this is pretty cool." It's like, oh man. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think it sounds cool. I'm excited that you're going to get to do it. That should be cool to hear how that goes. So
yeah, I will have a full review for you guys. Don't worry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this next thing we have here too.
Yeah, more technology.
Yeah, and this is what happens when you have a Tom and Trevor show. We like to talk about this type of stuff. So. Disney's developing technology to allow guests to wear augmented reality costumes. So for those that aren't familiar with what augmented reality is, it's I don't know, how would you describe it, Trevor? It's kind of like
it's like a technology overlay on like reality. A real life picture. Yeah. So I guess think of it like actually a good example is Snapchat filters.
Yeah,
right.
That's
how they get
example,
like the faces and stuff. That's actually a version of augmented reality.
Yeah, and so what this would do is this would allow guests to see themselves wearing an outfit based on their favorite princess, a Jedi, an Avenger, instantaneously. So in my mind, obviously, this is like the next step of magic shots, right? So those of you who have done PhotoPass, this is like the magic shot of the future, right? You go to Star Wars Land and it's like, well, I want to look like a stormtrooper or whatever. And then, although they'd probably have to do it with the helmet off, because otherwise, what's the point of taking the picture if you're just in a full stormtrooper outfit, right? And I guess you couldn't really be Chewbacca, could you? And that would be kind of tough. But regardless.
I'm sure, again, kind of like how Snapchat filters work, because it could be like a weirdly distorted version of your face or something.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. Yeah, but I think this is interesting. I definitely see this being a technology that they're going to use because I mean this would be huge in the parks, right? I mean this would be really cool if they could do this because so many people would want to wear like Avenger outfits or any of the Star Wars, and you know a lot of people would want to do the princesses. I mean that there is so much opportunity for this.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that so I guess the way to look at this, or I guess the way I'm thinking of how this would be implemented is that I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast before, but there's a technology called glyph tracking, and it's actually something that's used, or they use a version of it actually with the Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom game. So if you look at the cards in Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, each card around the border has symbols on it. And so when you show your card to the game, when you're playing or when you use your different card attacks, it's actually looking for that symbol on the card to determine what it's supposed to do. I feel that this would work in a similar way, is that you would have clothing that would have a particular design on it, and then whatever camera they're using that would read or that they would be using to take these photos or whatever, it would read that design and then use that to create whatever the overlay would look like on yourself. So either, Captain America or Iron Man or whatever. So
now that I'm thinking about this too, there could be some ride applications for this too. Because if you look at, I have no idea how they do the thing at the end of the Haunted Mansion where the hitchhiking ghosts are messing around with you. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure they could make it even better using this technology. Make you look more like a ghost, because right now you're just kind of a weird reflection. And
because that's facial recognition that they're using on that. But it's a similar principle. So
or I'm thinking of the new Minnie and Mickey's Railway. What if at the end of that ride, every time maybe there's a reflection you see of yourself and you're a cartoon character?
Oh yeah,
I don't know. How cool would that be?
Yeah, actually,
right.
Actually, yeah, that's interesting. I guess on rides. So like there's one thing of getting the picture as you're at the end of the ride. It's like, oh yeah, I got a picture. They put somebody else in it. But yeah, I guess imagine you come around a corner and there's like a mirror there, but then on the mirror, again, like you said, in the Haunted Mansion, but yeah, you get an overlay of something relating to the ride.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be a neat use of this technology. So, all right, well, this is cool. I think it's a neat idea. I'm hoping that they use it for something soon. Every time they come out with one of these new patents or technology that they're working on, I'm always assuming that it has to do with Star Wars Land. That's maybe just I'm just always assuming it has something to do with Star Wars Land, because it just seems like they're doing all sorts of crazy new stuff there. So
do you think I guess this is something that could be used in the hotel, right? The Star Wars hotel, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because they could have photo ops and stuff, or it shows you as they even say it right in the description. You could be your favorite princess, Jedi, or Avenger. So yeah. I mean, there's a million applications for this one. Mm-hmm. There's so many different things they could do with it. So I put something in here that we have not done in many episodes, and that's a resort speed round. We have not done one of those. A resort speed round.
Well, I said resort. Round, yeah. Well, because usually we just do Disney World, but there's a couple Disneyland ones in here, which is a good thing Damon's on here because he wouldn't care.
Right.
So, but we've got both in this one. In fact, they're equally out there. So, I don't know if do you want to go first with this, or do you want me to go first? I feel like I always go first.
I'll go first, because then because you usually take a little bit longer than the minute. So
you know what? It's because I'm always going first, though. That's why, and I'm explaining all of them. So
all right, do we want? Because last time didn't we agree that we would explain them first and then we would do the speed round?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Or do you want me to explain them? I mean,
let's explain them first, and then we can do the speed round. Yeah.
Okay, so we got
producing the show while we're on the show. I really
exactly
like doing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
exactly.
You read A, I'll do B.
Okay, so the first one is new entrance for Hollywood Studios. The film strip entrance now is for cast members, and the buses have been removed. Or sorry,
the film strip's been removed from that entrance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right.
So yeah, there's a new entrance to Hollywood Studios, and they've taken down all the stuff from the old entrance.
Okay, yeah. So, all right, that makes sense. Okay, so, and then the next one.
More Wreck-It Ralph news. So Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope will a meet and greet is coming to the Imagination Pavilion. In a previously unused space, they're going to be building a portal to meet them.
Okay.
So portal to the internet.
Okay, so, and the third one is a Luxo Jr. animatronic debuts at the entrance of Pixar Pier in California Adventure. For those that don't know what Luxo Jr. is, it's the lamp at the beginning of every Pixar movie that jumps on the ball.
Yep, exactly right. And the last one here is Rosita from the Enchanted Tiki Room will now be entertaining guests at the new Tropical Hideaway food and beverage area at Disneyland that they're currently building. So there's going to be an animatronic at that little eating area that will be entertaining guests and interacting with them.
Okay.
All right, so let's do this, Trevor. I'm going to time you for a minute.
Okay, starting now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, new entrance for Hollywood Studios. I'm a little sad that they took everything down because I like that Hollywood Studios and California Adventure were kind of mirrored, but I'll have to wait and see what the new entrance looks like. I hope that they keep a lot of those design aspects intact from the previous entrance.
Same look.
Okay, so that's good. So then really non-issue. Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope, I've already told my family that I'm going to line up to meet this. I am surprised, though, that they're showing up in the Imagination Pavilion because I thought they would actually be with the other character meet and greets in Epcot. But yeah, I am super stoked for this. I can't wait to go and see them. Luxo Jr. at Pixar Pier. Very interesting that they chose to put Luxo in there. Kind of you don't really think about Luxo as a feature, but I'm glad that they are acknowledging that. And Rosita at the Enchanted Tiki Room is, I don't know what to think about that. Yeah.
You're over a minute, so, it's okay.
I know, it is hard. But yeah, Rosita, I mean, she's one of the parrots in the whole show, and I guess that's cool, she'll be talking to everybody. I'm expecting it'll be more of a Trader Sam kind of thing. So,
yeah.
Wait to see on that one.
No, I guess I'll do my part and say all my things.
All right, go.
All right. So, new entrance for Hollywood Studios. Don't really care. Not gonna lie, I'm not pulling a Damon here. They just moved the entrance, and I'm not nostalgic for entrances, but I understand why people are attached to it. It's the way they've been going into Hollywood Studios for years, and they're sad that whole film strip entrance is gone now because they were updating it when new things came out and things like that. So not too sad about that, but it is cool that there's a new entrance and that there's going to be a new way for everybody to get in. Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope meet and greet. They are going to be at Interventions first, just because of space, and while they're building this portal. So I think it's interesting they're putting in the Imagination Pavilion. I knew that there was unused space there, but I didn't know that there was enough for a meet and greet. I also do think it's kind of strange that it's there. It just doesn't feel like it fits to me. But I'm glad they're doing a meet and greet. I think these meet and greets are great, and I definitely want to do it. Luxo Jr. animatronic, I think it's super cool. If you haven't watched the video of it, you need to, because it's real. I mean, it's basically like the Pixar opening came to life. It's the coolest thing ever. Go watch the video, Google it, look at YouTube. It's there. Rosita and Enchanted Tiki Room, huge fan of this. What?
Sorry, you're so far over a minute.
You know what? It's still faster than we normally talk about things.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's cool, actually. I like the idea of just animatronics like out in the wild, just kind of interacting with people. I've always been a fan of that, and I think it's kind of cool that you could just be sitting there and Rosita would start talking to you. And I mean, there was a patent we talked about a while ago that Disney had filed that was like an AI patent for being able to sense people's emotions, like the animatronics being able to kind of sense something on somebody's face and react accordingly. I wonder if it's going to be that interactive, or if it's just going to be like Mr. Potato Head sitting there cracking jokes while you're waiting in line. I don't know, but either way, I like it. I'm always for more animatronics, not less.
I hope actually it'll be like Roz in the Monsters Inc. ride in Disneyland. Because she
doesn't she like insult people as they're going by?
Yeah, she's very. It's very deadpan, dry. But it's funny because the responses are very tailored to every person that comes by, right? So
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
It's well, I don't want to ruin the magic on that. I'm assuming there's a human somewhere involved with that.
I have no idea. I've never figured that one out.
There's got to be a human there somewhere that's like doing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what my assumption would be, but I've always wanted to check that out. It seems like a cool ride, so
yeah, you need to get over to the West Coast at some point.
Yeah, one of these days when I don't have a 6-month-old anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah,
you will. I know you will.
For sure. Trust me, it's definitely a huge goal. So
speaking of the West Coast, why don't we talk about our rumor?
Yeah.
So, do you mind if I?
Yeah, do it up. Hey, you're the Disneyland guy, so
yeah. So the rumor is that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is coming to Disneyland. So the same one that is going into Hollywood Studios. There is a project. Supposedly, so this is all coming from WDW News today. The rumor is that there is a project called Marceline West. The original name for Mickey's Runaway Railway was Marceline. So it sounds as though they're taking that and they're mirroring it over in Disneyland. As far as the location of it goes, it sounds as though they're planning to put it somewhere in Toontown, which the first thing is they're not taking out Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin. I know everybody's thinking that. They're not taking it out, so that's safe. They're actually planning, I think the plan is that they're going to put it a little bit further into Toontown, possibly taking out the Gag Factory area, which is kind of sad because I like that area. It was a fun, there's lots of cool little interactive things in there, but it sounds like this may replace that. So it's, I think it's great. I'm glad that they're bringing it there because I mean, this is kind of, I think this is going to be a flagship ride at the end of the day. Like, it's Mickey, right? Like, it's Mickey's ride.
Well, and
how could it not be popular?
I mean, and it sounds like it's actually in a way more appropriate place at Disneyland than it is in Disney World, right?
Yeah, it's literally right down the street from Mickey and Minnie's house. So
it makes
why not put
sense.
it there? Yeah,
I do wonder if they're going to do the same storyline with it, or if they'll tailor it a little bit more to to Disneyland, or the fact that you're in Toontown. Maybe there'll be a scene, and since you're already in Toontown, maybe you'll start off in Toontown in the ride, or something like that. I don't know.
I actually hope that they do work Roger Rabbit back into it, like that version of Toontown, because that's really where Toontown came up around the same time as Roger Rabbit, and I believe that's kind of why Toontown was built. They were kind of pulling that out of the movie and making it into its own land. I mean, and it's very kid oriented, and there's stuff from Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers in there and stuff. Like, a lot of people don't even know who Gadget is, which is a crime. But I mean, that aside, I'm
not gonna lie. When I first read that, my first thought was Inspector Gadget. So
yeah. But
that was my first thought.
Gadget's Go Coaster though is for those that are wondering, Gadget was Chip and Dale's friend in Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. She was the mechanic that fixed everything up. She has her own roller coaster in Disneyland, which actually is pretty much the same as the Barnstormer in Disney World, if you've been to Mickey's Toontown Fair.
There you go.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I kind of hope that, like you said, that I think it would be cool if they kind of did some interesting twist where, because, Roger Rabbit is literally next door to the ride, why not kind of pull that into it, right?
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to have a different take on it if they were going to make I also think this, by the way, this says to me that even though the ride's not open yet, that Disney feels really confident that this ride's going to be a hit. Because, right? I mean, they would not just go and make another one already. I mean, if you look at all the rides that have been copied across, between Disneyland, Disney World, or any of the other parks, there's very few that are like, oh, whatever rides. Most of them are the big time attractions. So I would think, I just would think that this means that they have a lot of confidence in what this ride's going to be.
Well, so I guess my take on this is, you would have to do a really, really, really bad ride. It's Mickey Mouse. I know for me, it's just the fact that it's, Mickey and Minnie, and I know people don't necessarily like the new Disney Shorts style. I actually
animation
enjoy them.
Style.
Yeah, I do enjoy them. and again, just the fact that this is a Mickey Mouse ride, and this is the first, like, I mean, we're like, Disneyland is already past 60 years old, and we're now just getting a Mickey Mouse ride. Like,
I mean, there's going to be an animatronic Minnie and
Yeah.
Mickey. I mean, how exciting is that?
yeah, and
I mean, just
there hasn't been another ride centered around
no, there hasn't.
Mickey and Minnie, is there?
No, I think this is the first one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about that. And that's crazy when you think about it. Like
It is really crazy.
They got 60 years into it, and like Mickey Mouse has been like the biggest thing. Like, I mean, I know he's been present in the parks as a character and everything, but like this is the first time he's gotten a ride, which is, I mean, that's crazy. So
I almost feel like it was one of those things where, yeah, it almost reminds me of I don't know how many people out there still saving Mr. Banks, but it was the first time that Disney kind of endorsed having Walt Disney portrayed on film, and I think it's one of those same kind of things where they're like, we had to find the right thing for him. Like, you don't want to have a Mickey ride that's not very good, right?
That's true.
Right, so like they had to find the right vehicle, so to speak, for this. Yeah,
Runaway train.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think I almost feel like they maybe had this idea like many years ago and just didn't have the technology to do it yet. You know, because that's a lot of times when these things happen. I mean, like that's kind of what happened with Space Mountain and I think Test Track too, where they had these ideas ahead of time and they just didn't have the technology yet to get them done. So, so I don't know.
I was actually thinking of the Hatbox Ghost, but
that's actually a great example.
Yeah.
That's a great example. That's a perfect example because they tried to do it and they failed miserably, and then they were like, okay,
and then for years and years, everybody was wondering where the Hatbox Ghost was, and now it's in Disneyland. I wish it would come to Disney World. That'd
be nice.
It'd be awesome.
I do like that they keep some things exclusive to each park, though, too.
That's true, because actually the stair room doesn't exist in Disneyland either. So I guess it's a fair trade.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I think this is interesting. And by the way, I will point out that WDW News Today has a really good track record of this. They do have sources inside Disney, and they are reporting this as news. And we're just reporting it as a rumor because, it's not confirmed by Disney. So,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I do trust these guys as well, but it's, until Disney officially announces it, it's
always
just
rumor.
a rumor.
Yeah, it's always rumor as far as we're concerned until Disney says anything, even though they're reporting this as news. But, we, like I said, they have really good sources over there. They're very rarely wrong, so I could see this happening. So,
and this is not out in left field at all for me.
No, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap this thing up? I think we had a good full show today.
Yeah. All right. So, for anyone that wants to send us more comments, more, reader stuff, more stuff that for us to talk about, because, this is a show about talking. So send us an email at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to delete this thing about the website. It's become a running joke.
Oh man, I like pretending like we have a functioning website though. Yeah. I think it's good just sending people to a
one
website
day
that
we're going to update this website and it's going to be like amazing. I don't know.
It's going to be the best website that's ever existed.
Yeah. And one day welcomehomepodcast.com will be amazing, guys. But if you want to go look at it now, you can do that too.
If you want to look at it and laugh at us, you're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah, we'll laugh along with you.
Yep.
And as usual, we want the questions. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear, your feedback. So, you can reach out to us. Again, through email. We're on Facebook as well. You can find us as Welcome Home Podcast on Facebook. Twitter and Instagram, not so much. We do stuff gets posted there from Facebook, but we don't actively go and monitor Twitter and Instagram. So you can find us, Welcome Home Pod on Twitter, Welcome Home Pics on Instagram. When we do happen to go on trips, you will see pictures and stuff pop up on there. So if you want to follow it for those reasons, that's a good reason. Reviews on iTunes or any other service. So on Android, we like the reviews because again, that helps more people see us because, if you guys are giving us the reviews and we don't expect, great reviews. If you guys have, critique, we do like to hear that as well. So, we do like the feedback and
we would appreciate you tell us before you give us a 1-star review why we stink. So we can fix it, and then you could give us a review. But do review with your heart, people.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll take a quick moment here to do a follow up for Extra Life. So last week I did my 24-hour marathon for Extra Life. Myself and my brother, we raised about $800, which we didn't meet our goal, but that's okay. I actually set my goal higher this year than I did previous years, but total for all of the people who participated in Extra Life, for that one day, we made $8.8 million for children's hospitals around the world. So we're really proud of that. I thank everybody that, watched the stream, for everybody that contributed. You can, if you look on Facebook, you can find my, I made a post about it on there. You can check my donation page if I've left it open for now, so people can still go there and donate if you feel you want to. But again, thank you everybody for your donations on that. It's super appreciated, and from me and my family, it was a good event, and we had a lot of fun. And
it's great.
Yeah,
sounds like a great event. Yeah, I'm glad it was successful, and thank you to all who watched him or contributed or anything you did. We appreciate that. So. Don't forget to subscribe to Welcome Home Podcast so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, just about any place you can find podcasts. We are there. So, download a podcast app, search for Welcome Home. You will find us. Just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, any and all opinions we express on this show are our own. So please consult a DVC representative, somebody from DVC Resale Market, cast members for more information. I also want to throw this out there to a friend of the show, Chad. You probably heard him on a previous episode. Chad does a podcast called My DVC Points, and he's put out recently an episode where he interviewed me, and then we also did another show where we did some armchair Imagineering that I was making fun of earlier on a dream DVC resort. So go ahead. Yeah, I know. I made fun of that, and immediately you got me on that. But so go check out his podcast, My DVC Points. He's got a couple episodes out there that have me on it. So if you like me, if you're one of the 2 or 3 people that listen to the show that actually enjoy me as opposed to Trevor and Damon, go ahead and go check me out, and one of these days we'll get Trevor and Damon on that show too. So big thank you to DVC Resale Market for sponsoring and supporting this episode. Make sure you join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion, of course more DVC talk. We hope to see you all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
We do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.